Hello class, I would like to make this video just before closing chapter number 3, which is about logic. So you know that we are in that transition from logic, and then at the same time we start chapter number 8, which is personal finance. But we are about to finish the chapter number 3, or well, we almost finished the chapter number 3, but the reason that I want to make this final video about this is because next week we're gonna have the second test, right? The second sectional test, which is about logic. So I would like to make some comments about fallacies, which is the final section of chapter number 3, which is section 3.7, which is about arguments and truth tables. Okay, when an argument is valid, when an argument is not valid, how we can show that a typical argument can be valid. So in that way, as you know, we need to build the truth table of the symbolic representation of that argument, and then to make sure that the truth table is going to be a tautology in order to say that we have a valid argument. But we know that when an argument is not valid, it's called a fallacy. Okay, so the thing that I would like to go a little bit more detail in this video is about the fallacies. Fallacy is as is defined here, is whenever an argument is not valid. What is the meaning of that? That the conclusion that we have in that typical argument is not sustained by the premise. So is an invalid argument. And those are very important because that is something that we can find in our daily life. So there are people who really master how to make fallacies. Now, there are typical fallacies that are very common in our life. Well, there are so many type of fallacies, or some of them that are very common in communications between people, okay, when they are discussing or argue something, no? And those are the lists that you can see here. There are so many. Really, this is one list that is included in your textbook, but you may have more than that, okay? But those ones are very common between conversations that are from a panel or couple of people, couple of persons, or whatever, okay? But there is one that normally is misunderstood, but is quite common, okay? Which is the StrawMan fallacy. And that is the one that I want to detail a little bit further here in this video. Okay, what is the StrawMan fallacy? So for doing that, what I'm going to do, I found a video that is very, I believe so, is very didactic, okay, to detail what is this StrawMan fallacy about. And so what I would like to do in this video is go with you guys through this. This is gonna be 5 minutes video. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna play the video and stop the video whenever I believe that I need to explain or give a little bit of more detail, and then we can go through there. So in that way, you may have a better idea about this type of fallacy, which is very, very common. That is the StrawMan fallacy. Okay, let's go.
Hi, I'm Joseph Wu, and I'm a philosophy graduate student at the University of Cambridge. In this video, I'll explain the StrawMan fallacy, an informal fallacy that comes up all the time. Let's start off with an example to see how it works. Suppose my friend Maureen presents the following argument. Premise 1. Advertisements for beer encourage underage drinking. Premise 2. Underage drinking often has negative consequences. Conclusion, therefore, advertisements for beer should be banned from TV. And let's say I respond with the following objection. Well, yeah, but people will never give up drinking beer. They've been doing it for ages. Is this a good response to Maureen's argument? No, because Maureen never claims it would be a good idea to give up drinking beer. That's not her argument at all. In this scenario, I've committed the strawman fallacy, since I've attacked a position that Maureen never advances. The strawman, or straw person, fallacy occurs when an opponent's position is misrepresented in order to make it easier to critique. Just like how a man made of straw is intended to resemble an actual man, a strawman fallacy occurs when an opponent's position is presented in a way that resembles the original claim, but is not the actual claim advanced. It creates the illusion that a position has been refuted or critiqued by switching out the original position with a different one. To see this more clearly, consider the following two claims. Advertisements for beer should be banned from TV. This is Maureen's original claim. People should stop drinking beer. This is my portrayal of Maureen's original claim. And these are two very...
Okay, so this is very important. So the people who is arguing Maureen claim, he distort the initial claim from this lady. So he said, okay, people should stop drinking beer. And then he's gonna complain about this argument to then claim that her argument is false. But results that this one is a different one from her claim. Doesn't have to do what she's telling about. What she's telling about is that advertisements for beers should be banned from the TV because have bad consequences for younger people. Doesn't have to do with the argument that says that people should start drinking beer. But the other person who is her opponent tried to say or to attack this one to create the illusion, as this guy is telling to you, that she's incorrect. So that is a strawman fallacy. He create another argument that doesn't have to do with the original one, but that argument that he creates or she creates, okay, is gonna be easier to attack compared with the original claim, to pretend that the original one is false. Okay, this is the kind of things that we are talking about. Okay, let's move forward.
Very different claims. Maureen only endorses the first one based on our conversation. However, my objection is to the second claim, which is much easier to refute. This is because the second claim is a very extreme view. It would take a lot of good arguments to convince others that people should stop drinking beer. But in our argument, I have improperly attributed this extreme view to Maureen, and then proceeded to attack it.
That I improperly attribute to Maureen's claim. Exactly. So he distort the first one into this one because he knows that this one is easier to attack. But when he attacked this one, his intention is to make false the original one. That is a fallacy argument. It's not valid. Okay?
Since this claim is much easier to refute than her original claim, I have committed the strawman fallacy. The general structure of strawman fallacies goes like this. First, person 1 advances position X. Second, person 2 presents a distorted version of position X. Let's call this position Y. Third, person 2 attacks position Y. And fourth, person 2 concludes that position X is false. In the strawman fallacy,
This is very important, guys. And I think that this is the easiest way to explain the strawman fallacy. Okay, when you present an argument and somebody's going to make an opposition to your original argument, what sometimes people does is that they distort the original position, the original argument into another one, and then they attack that one because that one is easier to attack, to pretend that the original one is false. That is the pattern of the StrawMan fallacy. And believe me, there are people who master these kind of things, that are specialists for doing these kind of things, and they confuse people. Okay, so we need to be aware of this type of argument because, of course, those arguments are not valid, and in most of the cases are not valid, and at the same time are not true. Okay.
We've just considered the original view was exaggerated to a very extreme view and then attacked. But there are other ways in which a position can be misrepresented as well. Sometimes a position can be oversimplified to the point of being absurd. Here's an example of that. Suppose my friend Gio presents the following argument. Premise 1. The theory of evolution says that humans are no different from apes. Premise 2. Humans are different from apes because humans are obviously smarter. Conclusion. Therefore, the theory of evolution is false. Is this a good argument? Clearly not, since the theory of evolution does not claim that humans are no different from apes. Gio has falsely characterized what the theory of evolution says and then proceeded to attack it. He has committed the straw man fallacy. But it's worth noting that the structure of his argument is valid. So for anyone not familiar with evolutionary theory, it might seem as if Gio has provided a good argument against evolution.
Okay, let me go a little bit back in here. Okay, so this is exactly another example of a strawman fallacy in which the first argument has been oversimplified. Okay. However, the structure that the people is making in this one seems to be valid. And I want to just to give a little bit of detail why it's valid. So in premise number 2, we have a conditional. The conditional says, if humans are obviously smarter, then humans are different. Okay, so they say here, humans are different from apes because humans are obviously smarter. Okay, so the because is the sufficient condition. And the necessary condition is that humans are different from apes. Why this argument is valid? Because we have a conditional, and in the conditional, the sufficient condition that the humans are obviously smarter than apes is true. So we cannot derive a false consequence. And that's what we say here in premise 1. So that's why they conclude that the evolution of theory is false. Okay? So from that point of view, is a valid argument. Okay? But what happened? That the premise 1 is a false premise. It's not true. The evolution of theory doesn't say that the humans are no different from apes. Okay? So that is a strawman fallacy. It's assuming something that is false. The premise is false. So you know from your theory, because I explained that in another video, that even though if you have a valid argument, the trueness of the conclusions is relative to the trueness of the premise. So let me open your textbook here just a little bit. So let me go here. I know the pages. I think it's 1A9. And they say here, so the conclusion of a valid argument is true relative to the premise. When we have an argument, a valid argument in which the premises are true, then we say that it's a sound argument. That's what is happening. I mean, we know, and it's true, that the humans are obviously smarter than apes. Then the consequence, which is the necessary condition, humans are different from apes. But they say, no, humans are no different. But what happened? That premise is false. So if you have a sound argument, you cannot have that conclusion. But he used this false premise to argue that the evolution of theory is false. And that is a StrawMan fallacy. Doesn't have to do with that, because the evolution theory doesn't say that the humans are different from the apes. Actually, they say that the humans are different from apes. They never say that the humans are not different from apes. Okay, so this is the reason I want to just to give you a more detail about that. Okay, let's continue with the video.
It seems as if Geo has provided a good argument against evolution, and this is why strawman fallacies can often be difficult to spot. The strawman fallacy is prevalent in politics as well, and it is not just used to misrepresent an opponent's position. Often, strawmen are set up to distract people from difficult topics that politicians want to avoid. For example, consider how politicians construct strawman responses by answering a question they were never asked. Suppose a politician is being accused of illegally using campaign funds for personal use. Let's say a reporter asked the politician directly, "So, did you or did you not use campaign funds for personal spending?" And the politician might respond with something like this: "That's an excellent question. I've received a lot of generous donations to my campaign. My favorite donation has been a handwritten card thanking me for everything I've done. I really love that card, especially since I value the dedication of working-class people." In this example, the politician sets up a straw man by responding to a different question than the one originally asked. The question was whether campaign funds have been used for personal spending, but the politician provides an answer to the question, "What has been your favorite campaign donation?" This is a much easier question to answer, and it allows the politician to avoid answering the original question while also portraying himself or herself positively. Strawman fallacies are everywhere, and you've probably come across various.
That is quite common between politicians. Have you noticed any time that you may ask something to anybody else and the person responds with another thing that doesn't have to do with the original question? Well, that is a strawman fallacy, because the question that they want to respond is easier to do it in order to avoid the original question that is a difficult one. Okay, that is quite common. That is very, very common. So the question is these people making this for purpose? They are aware, or are they aware of what they are doing? Well, believe it or not, in almost 90% of the cases, yes, they know. They made that for purpose because they want to avoid the original question, and that is quite common, guys. Okay?
Variations of the examples presented here in your everyday life. Sometimes, strawman fallacies are intentional, which is often the case in politics. But other times, they are unintentional, like when someone genuinely misunderstands an opponent's claim. In order to keep discussions productive, it is important to grasp the exact position being advanced before proceeding to attack it. Otherwise, you may be guilty of committing the strawman fallacy.
And this is what we are looking for. I really like the closing part of this guide. In order to make a discussion productive, and not only discussion, communication, in order to have a productive communication, we need to avoid this type of arguments. And from the very beginning, state whatever is correct. Okay, let me just to finalize this with another example. Okay, let's go with this one. This video is very short, but this is an extreme example that really represents very well an StrawMan fallacy. You got probably something already. Whenever people say, when you make a question and you hear from the people, oh, this isn't a very good question, be careful, because whatever is coming next, I'm not going to say that it's true all the 100% because I normally use that. But whenever they say that, you need to be careful because probably what is coming next is a fallacy. Okay? But there are some other questions or some other kind of exclamation that allow us to recognize when we have an StrawMan fallacy. Okay, let's take a look of these two examples, and with that, we're going to finish this video.
Argument, claim, or opinion and distorts it into some kind of extreme version. And then after that, they attack that extremist version as if that was really the argument you were making. So you see this a lot in mainstream media, the news, and especially when it comes to political debates. You'll notice that this fallacy almost always follows the phrase.
No, I'm not saying that.
You're just saying
murderous.
You're saying
And I actually haven't said that.
You're saying that. So you're saying. So you're not going to say what you're saying. So you're saying that women aren't intelligent enough to run.
Okay, so in here, the person who is hosting the program is forcing to the other guy to say something that is not the original position. So you say that women are not whatever? Come on, this is not what they are talking about. So that is an StrawMan fallacy.
These top companies.
No, I didn't say that at all.
You said that.
So to bring it all together, here is a real-life example of the StrawMan fallacy.
This example is kind of funny because it's quite exaggerated, but it's a very typical StrawMan fallacy. Look at here.
Mister, don't you shouldn't litter. It's bad for the planet.
Oh, it's bad for the planet? Oh, what? If I litter one time, all of a sudden the planet is going to explode or something? So you're telling me global warming and all these tsunamis and all the hurricanes and earthquakes is my fault just because I threw that one piece of litter? Is that why you're...
Well, the child is not telling that. It's not telling that to his dad. Okay. He only claimed that don't litter because that is going to affect the planet. The child is not telling to the dad that he's responsible because of the hurricanes, of the tsunamis, all that stuff, but his dad made all that stuff because, exaggerate all that position, because he's making an StrawMan fallacy. Okay? For what reason? Dude doesn't recognize to his child that, yes, that's correct. Thank you so much. Yes, I don't want to do this. Let me take that from the floor and put it in a trash can or something like that. Anyway.
You telling me? Hey buddy, why don't we go ahead and do a little rain dance over there in the Amazon, huh then? Oh, you probably thought me throwing that little piece of trash caused droughts all over the world. You know what then? Why don't we go down to every single place that's droughted out and have you do a little rain dance? See if that fixes it. You probably think you're better than me, huh? Well, I got news for you, buddy. It doesn't work like that.
Okay, guys. Well, I hope that this clarified a little bit about the StrawMan fallacies that are the ones that are a little bit more difficult to spot. Okay? So, but be careful. Whenever you are talking with people or you argue or you are looking an interview or debate, especially in these days that we have a lot of political debates, so be careful with those type of fallacies, okay? Thank you.